Okay, let's call our official February Equip Academy Governing Board meeting to order here. So welcome everyone. Thanks for making time and coming to join us. I know some of us are in warmer places, colder places. There was a big snowstorm here in Eugene, Oregon today, so it's been a little bit of a crazy day. So let's go ahead and get officially kicked off with our roll call. So I'm going to defer over to our amazing secretary, Alejandra, to do roll call.
Hi, everybody. Let's start with roll. Renee,
Present.
Sarah,
Present.
Mike,
Here.
James,
Present.
Janet,
Present.
Alejandra is present, and Mary.
Present.
Perfect. And then also present, I have
Awesome.
noted Mercy, head of school. I don't see Daniel today. And then I will take notes of the other individuals as soon as in just a sec. Thank you.
Thank you. So before we do the approval of the agenda and minutes, I know we have some new people on, so I want to do proper introductions. So obviously some of you heard our roll call, but if we just go around board members first, give your name, any kind of role you play on the board, and a little bit about yourself. That way the rest of the folks here get to know us, and then I may ask Abby and Sammy to introduce themselves. So I'll go ahead and get started. My name is Renee Lidaldo Riley. I am the governing board chair. That is my role on this board. I'm originally from New Mexico, but I work at the University of Oregon. As I mentioned, I'm in Eugene. In my everyday job, I work in higher education doing data and assessment in the Division of Student Life, trying to understand what our college students' needs are so we know if we're doing the right things and if we're doing things right. And so whoever wants to go next from our board, wanting to introduce themselves.
I am Mike Quinn. I'm board member here and not native to New Mexico. Been in New Mexico about 13 years now, though. I work for a company called Rio Grande and the executive position there. Have mostly an engineering, manufacturing, operations background. But I'm very new to the educational space, so this has been kind of a trial by fire for me. I'm still learning every time, every meeting, including like the one we just had about finance. So still learning, but excited to be a part of it. And nice meeting you all.
Hi, everyone. I'm James Abatha Stevens, and I am a human resources professional / educator for higher education / a program director for counseling, social work, and therapy at Central New Mexico Community College. And I am a voting board member.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mary Jones. I am a lawyer by trade. Please don't hold that against me. Not exactly a native New Mexican, but I went to high school and college here and raising a young child here, and I'm a voting board member.
Hello, I'm Janet Laring. I am the treasurer of the governing board. Currently, I'm the director of operations for Casa de Salud. I have a finance background and I am not native here. I grew up in Mississippi and then I went to Texas where I got my degree in financial consulting. And then I moved here about 7 years ago. So, guess long enough.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alejandra Grijalva. I am currently the development director for a nonprofit called Centro Savila. I have previous policy and budgeting experience from the Legislative Finance Committee, born and raised here in New Mexico, and raising soon to be 3 kids here. So nice to meet you.
Thank you, board members. Abby, Sammy, do you want to introduce yourselves? Please.
Go ahead. I'm Sammy Marquez, and I've been with K-12 accounting now 4 years, I think. Yeah, just about 4 years. I did get my bachelor's and my master's in business administration, and I always said I would never go into accounting, and I've been here now for 4 years, and I love it. I love working with charters and districts. And right now I work with to them, but seeing new charters is super exciting for me and just love doing what I do right now. And so I'm super excited to be a part of your guys' team.
Welcome. Thank you, Abby.
Hello, everyone. My name is Abby. Really excited to be here. Mercy and I connected recently at the Leal Convening and Leadership Group. And I am charter born and bred. I started my career teaching in New York City at Uncommon Charter Schools, then went to teach and found a school with KIPP in North Carolina, and most recently was a superintendent at a charter school in Washington. So I have founded 2 schools and been part of 2 founding schools in the past, and just really happy to be here with Mercy and to be supporting her on this big dream that is also one that I have. So, just learning a lot and happy to be here providing support.
Awesome. Thank you. And my apologies, Sarah.
As the COO, Abby, I don't know if you said that, but Abby's the COO. So that's very exciting. So I wanted her to come introduce herself.
Ah, yeah, good. Nice to meet you.
And Sarah, my
So she's
apologies. I didn't give you a chance to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Sarah Fitzgerald. I am our vice chair and an agent of chaos because I thought our board meeting was downtown, so I'm in the car right now. So I apologize, but I'm so happy to get to know some of you that I haven't met before. I have a background in education policy. It's my passion, so I've loved being part of this journey with the Clip Academy. And currently I'm working more in the healthcare space. I'm at Well, New Mexico's health insurance marketplace, doing policy there full time. So that is me.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. And my apologies. I hope I didn't screw that up and put a location on there.
No,
That
you
was
had it right. I somehow committed it to memory, and it was just like tattooed on my brain. And it wasn't until like 6:58 that I looked at it, and I was like, oh.
Oh, I'm
Sarah,
so
if you're still
sorry.
downtown, I'll let you in.
Yeah. There you
oh
go.
man,
Love.
Sarah, it's because you missed that last one. You were like so excited, ready to jump in. You
I
skipped that
was.
last one.
I was.
Well, thanks for still
Wow.
joining on the phone.
Awesome. So as we get started on our agenda tonight, I think it's really important as just like where we're at in our implementation year and thinking about leadership being so important to the governing board and how critical it is to make sure that we're supporting Mercy in the ways that we need to, but we're also staying true to what a governing board should do for a public charter school. So I actually have a great question for us to all get started because I think this is actually going to drive a lot of things that we have conversations tonight when we have updates about facilities and enrollment and outreach. So the question I have for you all, and I'll let you simmer on it, what personal value or life experience do you have that drives your passion for being with the Equip Academy board? And how do you think this influences our vision as a school? So what personal value or life experience drives your passion for being a part of Equip Academy's board? And how does this influence our vision?
I'll go. I think for me, a big one is be ethical in all of our decision making, in our processes, in each other, and what we do and how we get there. And also being and part of the ethical is being truthful to our community, to ourselves, and to our students and our parents about what our mission is and follow that mission and vision forward.
For me, education has been such a huge part of my life journey. My dad was born in Ireland. He left home when he was 12. So he finished his last schooling was whatever that would be, like 5th, 6th grade in Ireland. My mom didn't finish high school. But yet my mom in particular, my grandfather, really, valued education, even though they didn't really have any formal education. So they kind of put that in my mind. And so I didn't come from families that had that necessarily experience, but they had that as something kind of to strive for. And so, I wasn't a great high school student, but kind of made up for it later in life and went to school working full time as an engineering student and finished that, and then got my MBA. And it's just been a lifelong journey. And so for me, I wouldn't have the opportunities I've had without education. That's just, and I love to learn, but it's been such a great experience. So being a part of this and helping especially kids when they're young, I think that's when you can really make the biggest impact. Especially here in Albuquerque, it's such a critical need. So the whole idea of getting the kids when they're young and giving them a different vision for what they can accomplish and the tools and experiences to accomplish it. So that's what drives me.
Thank you.
I think my answer has changed a little bit, but I've always been driven by equity and justice. And as things are changing in the educational landscape for lots of students and lots of families and children nationwide, I am more motivated than ever to make sure our students have access to the best education we can give them and any accommodations that are necessary.
I think my response is a little bit similar to Mike's. I'm first generation, my parents immigrated here from Mexico essentially just to give us an education and make sure that we had a better life here. That has driven me my whole entire life. And I was very privileged to go to a private school my whole life because my parents thought that was the best way to give me an education, and I saw them work, multiple jobs at a time to make sure that we had that. And I just think that so many kids and people in my same situation, don't have that privilege. And so it is definitely our job to make sure that these quality education is available to everybody. And so I will pour my heart into doing that every single day, just to make sure that everybody gets that same opportunity of building a better life through education.
For me, I grew up in Mississippi, like I said, and Mississippi and New Mexico always fought for 50. And I always hated it that Mississippi was 50 or very close. And everyone who grew up there, they were either going to get married and stay at home, or they were going to drive an 18-wheeler and go offshore. And so there wasn't really a emphasis on reading or math, and people couldn't read Romeo and Juliet in 10th grade. And I just feel like it's really unfair to let our students be trained that way and to not give them the opportunity to succeed if they could. I mean, imagine being 30 and being like, oh, I can't really read, right? And the only reason I can't is because the people who are in my life didn't push me to do that. And I just feel like we have to do what's right for the kids, and then they can make their own decision, go into trade school, go to college, whatever. But at least give them the tools to succeed, and then we'll have a better future.
Any other thoughts? Thank you all for engaging in this exercise. I think it's important as we think about like where we're at. We're almost halfway through our implementation year, just about at this halfway point. And I think us thinking about like, in August, we will have students in our school. Our board meeting will look very different a year from now. But I think it's also really important to remember that these life experiences that we bring to this work are so pivotal in how we show up and then how we execute the vision and helping Mercy live out her dream doing this school. So I would just say ditto to everything that's been said. And I think just right now where we're at as a nation, equity is so critical. And being in New Mexico, we've just sat back and accepted that success is 26% of students are proficient in reading by third grade, that we accept that is amazing. And so I really appreciate Mercy's vision and what she's bringing to provide a high expectations, an amazing curriculum to our students in our state. So really, really excited about that. Let's move forward with the approval of the agenda. But before we do that, I'd like to have a motion to add 2 things to the agenda that have just come up momentarily. One is, as you all know, Alejandra is with twins coming in the next, I don't know, unpredictable. It happens, right? So we just want to get ahead of that and do a quick, it's our election process for appointing officers. It's really simple. We just have to get nominations and then a simple majority vote for a temporary secretary. And if we're okay, I'd like to get a motion to add that to the agenda for today under our governance piece.
So moved.
Is there a second? Or a second? I'm sorry, I don't know if I heard a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, perfect. And the other thing I want to add, and we can add this towards later in the agenda, just so Sarah can have a little bit more time to get settled into her home to talk about this. But apparently there is a new bill being put up in the state legislature around the Public Education Commission structure and how that might affect us going forward. So everything's preliminary. We're not trying to make a motion to vote on anything and say we have a stance on it. It's more just an information piece. So I'd like to add that to the agenda before the next step. And so if I could get a motion to add that later in the agenda, can I get a motion?
I so move.
Awesome. Is there a second?
Second.
Awesome. So adding those two things
Renee, can I just
into,
ask one thing really quick?
yes,
For the share out on the enrollment and strategic planning, is it okay if Abby shares something, or do we have to get that approved as well?
no, it's
Okay.
under update, so we're good.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, now with our new agenda, adding the temporary appointment. Good question. Who is our second? Okay, perfect. Thank you, Mary. Adding in the temporary secretary appointment under governance and adding in the new bill being introduced around PEC structure towards the end of the agenda. The agenda as is with those changes. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as is?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, moving forward to approval of our minutes from last meeting. My apologies for not linking these in sooner, but they're linked into the agenda. I think there was like a wrong link in there. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting in January?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? No? Okay. We're going to move on to our public comment. I'm not seeing anyone from the public here to comment tonight, but I will give a second just to acknowledge that. Okay, if not, we're going to move right into governance. A lot of things tonight, folks. So the first thing is logistics emails. Able to successfully create the Google groups. There are a couple of emails that don't allow me to add in, but it still, I think, works the way it does. And in speaking to Mercy, apparently there is an ability within the school structure to create specific Equip Academy board emails. So I'm going to defer to Mercy. Can you give us some more information on what that would consist of? Because I want to bring it to you all to figure out, do we just keep using our personal emails, have it in this Google group, adding the few people that we can't add in there? And I think it's only Mike and Mercy that we have to add in addition to that, Google Groups email. Or should we move forward to something more sustainable where every new board member who comes on has a specific Equip Academy board email? So I'm going to pause there, defer to Mercy. Can you give us more information on what the email structure would look at before the board can talk about it?
With the new platform that Abby and I moved to, we have the ability to add emails. So Abby had suggested that she create emails for you all, and she can proceed in doing that if that's something you want to do. Abby, do you want to share what that looks like and how that would work and how it benefits the board?
Yes. So we actually, as a school and as a charter school, we were able to get the Google for Education workspace that gives us access to a whole bunch of, just space in the Google world. So we have a drive, we can create shared drives that are only shared with certain people. And then everyone, it's Google essentially. So everybody will be able to have all of their stuff that they do related to your board work on Google in your Google emails. And it would, as of right now, the naming conventions we're using are the first letter of your first name, last name at equipnm.org. We try to make it very simple, so there's no like period, and it's like first name, period, last name, right? People mess those up, or even like hyphens in last names could be difficult for when people apply or respond to things. And we get to designate how secure each email is and what groups they are, right? So in the future, students will have emails and they'll be part of the student group. Admin will have emails, they'll be part of the admin group. Board members have emails and they're private too. This is something I strongly recommend when it comes to, the school is going to be receiving public funds. There's a lot of public records that then are very important that you delineate and separate things so that it's safe and that there's nothing like getting confused or if there was an issue in the future at some point where someone is requesting public fund or public records and they're requesting every email that you ever sent. If you use your Equip email for your Equip business, then they are only requesting those. Versus if you're using a personal email or something, they could ask for your personal stuff too. So just in my experience, I'm like, the more you can separate what's personal and what's private and belongs to the public, the better it is.
Thank you for that clarification. And just to give you, Abby, you and Mercy, a little more context, we had created a separate Gmail for the Equip Academy board, which is a general email, but not to us individually. Anybody can log in on the board with the credentials and get in there and see things. And that's where we migrated our entire drive to. So I want to put this back on the board. I'm open to whatever we think logistically might make sense long term. I do like the idea of taking our personal emails out of it. I think there is benefit to that, and I do see that. But I'd love to hear your thoughts because I feel like we went from like a lot of different changes, and so I just want to not change too rapidly and make sure that you all have access to the information, where it's at, but then not adding extra nuance to the equation. So I want to pause there, get your thoughts on what you just heard in terms of moving to these, new email process, etc.
I'll go. I think we should and keep personal on this side and professional on this side, because then we could keep it separately, because right now with my personal email, everything gets just jumbled up and I have to sort through it. And this way our Equip Academy will get it in one certain spot where we can respond to it, keep it safe, and not get it jumbled and buried under a bunch of other emails that are personal.
I was looking into all of that. I have had issues with my personal email lately that everything just gets buried in there. And so I've missed a couple of emails recently. So I would really appreciate a space where it's just Equip focused. It also just helps with keeping track of things. Yeah.
Yeah, I see the logic. I just have to train myself to another another communication source. I have it feels like too many already, but I guess I can get used to it. So you might have to send me a text that you send me an email, so I'll actually look at it. But yeah, other than that, I think it makes sense.
What are the things
Very pro.
that does? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mary.
Oh, I'm probably about to say the same thing that Daniel is. I'm very pro having dedicated emails specifically for IPRA reasons.
And I agree with that. It's also helpful, particularly in the Google platform. The administrator has set it up. If you could set it up to do an auto forward, then because most of the emails we'll be receiving will be informational and not things we'll be responding to, then we can set up an auto forward to whatever emails we're naturally checking, so we don't have to go check a new place. But then certainly if we're responding to something, we should probably log in to the official email too.
Oh, I like that idea. Yeah, that would help me.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike, I think it would be difficult to send you a text message every time. So
I'm just kidding.
The forward help. I'm like, please don't. I can't do it. I'm telling you right now, and I'm sure Renee can't do it. Okay.
I also want to throw in, and I think this is the good way to go, because I don't necessarily want parents and people from the community wanting my personal email, because who knows what I'm going to get from businesses, from forwards, from spam, or whatever it may be. So it just makes sense from that perspective as well.
Awesome. So it sounds like universally you all are kind of in route to what I was thinking that we should move forward. I just wanted to bring it to you all. So okay, so what we'll do next steps then is we'll start exploring moving this over, and I'll keep you all posted. Obviously, we still have our Google Drive Equip Academy board. We'll still continue to email each other in the ways that we have until you hear otherwise, but we'll go ahead and start exploring that and moving forward to be a little bit more strategic. Thank you for that. Appreciate the feedback. The next one is just more of an update. I think maybe we'll spend some more time in the next meeting looking through things, but initially I was really shocked after going through all the training from the state that there wasn't a template that boards could take to create some type of manual, like a standard operating procedure manual, something that we could use for documentation. Everything's in one space for our board and what we do and all the policies and everything that we've created together, instead of having to look through different files. And so initially I was like, we should have like a board manual where everything is in one place, linked to other parts of our drive. And part of that process is for sustainability, but also for onboarding of future board members. And so it's very clear in there, like, what does the board do? What are its responsibilities? What are the key laws and things that we need to make sure that we're compliant with? Here are the links to the policies that we were created. They were last updated X, Y, and Z. And so you'll see there, that's the most updated board manual. We have a few pieces where we can't finalize yet because we've submitted some of these policies that we voted on in November through the state, through their system, but they still have to go through and give any feedback or any recommendations. And we don't necessarily need to take their recommendations depending on what it pertains to, but I don't want to quite finalize it yet until we get that all in order. But I just wanted to give you the most updated document. I'm hoping next meeting we can spend a little bit more time with it so I can orient you on how it's structured, and then also hear from you on what's missing. So I would like to task you all between now and our next meeting in March, if you could spend an hour at most, not even 30 minutes, just looking through this to see, like, structurally, is it making sense? Is something missing? So like kind of have the frame of like, I'm new to this whole Equip Academy board stuff. Like, do I understand what my role is as I'm reading this? Do I understand what I'm supposed to do? Is there confusion? Is there misalignment on that? Because ultimately it's going to be used as a source for orientation and onboarding, but also documentation of everything that we're doing, just because I think it'd be easy to have everything in one space rather than us try to like find things in different spaces. Again, I'm a systems person, so I'm always thinking about like sustainability and long-term planning. So does that sound like a doable thing? And between now and our next meeting, our board members to go into that manual and
So
just
that's
spend
in
time
the
from that.
board, that's in the Google Drive under like board materials.
So it's linked into our agenda under board manual update, and
Okay.
it's in our Google Drive under, I believe it's board manual. I
Okay.
can't recall.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Any
you
other
for taking this
clarification?
on, Renee. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I just wanted to thank you for taking this on. I feel like you do so much to keep us organized and just really thoughtful in a lot of this stuff. And there's so many moving parts right now. I think it's going to really pay off in a few months, especially next year when we have to probably restart some of these processes. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that feedback.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next thing. So part of our role as a governing board chair, or like a governing board, is to ensure that we're thinking about how are we thinking about the future success of this school from our positionalities. And so I have a few questions I would like us to discuss before moving on to more of the updates part of our agenda. Because I think this is important to be thinking about every meeting, having some space, because again, the success of a school often has to do with either a board not being super involved and kind of not very supportive, or like too involved where they're really getting down into management. And so these are kind of the two pitfalls that we've heard, really don't set a school up for success. And so thinking about setting our school up for success, I think it's really important to think about this intentionally. So I have a couple of questions, but the first one is how do we build a strong, engaged board that actively supports our school vision? How do we actively build a strong, engaged board that actively supports our school vision?
I can take a stab at it. I think first is being clear on what the vision is from the outset. But I think it's also making sure we always come back to that with every decision that we make. So kind of step by step, making sure we're always returning to these are our values, these are our principles, these are our responsibilities, that the things that we have to be providing to our families and our kids. And just always making sure that that's at top of mind so that it's really guiding our decision making.
I'll go. I think utilizing all of our strengths for one collective team and using each other to help motivate each other, because we are going to have our ups and our downs, and just realizing that we're all in it together for one mission.
I guess for me, I agree with, what Sarah and James just said. And for me, I'm still, as I said, learning what, I mean, I think what you just said, Renee, about those two boundaries of being too involved and not being involved enough. And so, what are those what are those, guidelines, and, what should I be doing? What shouldn't I be doing? And that, so I'm still kind of learning that myself. And I think as I learned that, that'll help me personally be more effective, and then maybe also as a board too, how much are we involved with setting strategy, making sure it's being done, and these are things that over time I'm hoping I'm gonna get a better sense of, so I feel comfortable I'm doing my job without overstepping and kind of mucking things up and getting in the way. So that's what I'm still personally trying to figure out. And, maybe as a board together, we're, going to have to work through that a bit so that, we're supporting, but also making sure we have that oversight and accountability to the vision and strategy.
Awesome. I appreciate your all feedback on these pieces, because I think it is important that we are thoughtful and mindful of where our vision is and how that sets us up and grounds us in all our decision making, as well as utilizing. We all come from different backgrounds. We all have just an amazing skill set collectively. So there's definitely value in that. And then how do we explicitly state these guideposts? Because I think 90% of the time it's miscommunication. And so how do we be more explicit with where we're at and what we need to do to avoid some of those pitfalls? So thank you for that. And the last question I have in regards to strategic planning is, we're thinking about where we're at halfway through our implementation year. How do we build a thriving school that will last beyond our founding years?
I think there are two prongs to that. The first one is providing a quality education to our students. As long as we're providing a quality education to our students, we will have more students. The other piece is community involvement, that it's not just send your kids to school, drop them off at fancy daycare, and be done. Getting families, parents, and other community members involved in the kids' education will create a school that will survive.
Yeah, and I would add to that, culture, setting that culture, foundational culture early, which goes into hiring and training, and making sure that the DNA of the people we're bringing in, has share the vision, and but they're getting the proper training and onboarding so that everybody's aligned, and then that becomes a self-sustaining thing over time. That as we bring in new people, we have that same cultural language and approach, and that becomes sustainable and scalable over the future.
James, enjoy your time in Florida. Thanks for joining us for your time. You could join. Any other thoughts on this question? How we intentionally build a thriving school that will last beyond our founding years?
I can add to that. I agree with the points that have already been stated, but I also think like these are the most important years, right? We're gonna set up a school, like if it's strong in the foundation that we set it in now, following Mercy's vision and the pillars that really create Equip Academy and instilling that into staff and students and community, then that should live for a long time.
Any other thoughts? All really great. I love this. Thank you. So as we move forward, I just want us to I just felt like it was important for us to take this very meta framework tonight to make sure that we're remembering why we're here. Because I feel like it's been so crazy, right? There's so much to do in this implementation year. And I think sometimes it's important to take a step back and reflect on the reasons why we are here and why we're showing up and why we're so passionate. Again, we're volunteers. And so, we're coming to this, not with, the benefit other than we're giving back to our community. And so I think it's important to ground us in those values. So thank you for engaging with that process. Just so you know, every month we'll have a couple of those questions that we're going to keep revisiting. So thank you. So moving on to the next part of our agenda, finance. Are there any finance updates need to be shared?
Yes, we have several finance updates. This month we had our first finance committee meeting, so we've finally kicked that off. First, we're going to start with the CSP fund from PCS. So with this grant, we have been approved for $2 million for the full 2 years. And what I'm about to talk about is for the fiscal year 25. So that's from July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025. So that means we have, I guess, 4 or 5 months left in the year to report on. So Mercy submitted many reimbursements, mostly for her salary and benefits and some other fees that we have to pay to legal and K-12. And we got our first reimbursement from November for $28,000. So that is what is in the bank account now. In terms of what we spent out of it, we've only spent $5 as of the end of January, and that is due to a bank service charge. You will see a lot more expenses in our next update because that is when K-12 processed the checks for Mercy and for various other expenses. So in terms of projections for the rest of the year until the end of June, we're projecting about $400,000 that we'll be spending. And this is pre-instructional supplies and equipment. So it's before we have a classroom. So most of this, like I said, is going to salaries and benefits, purchase services, which are like our contractors and various other expenses. There may be some rent and mostly marketing, advertisement as we're trying to enroll students. So that's it for the CSP summary. Are there any questions for CSP? Okay, I'm going to share the Excellent Schools New Mexico grant now. I think, Renee, you have to enable permissions for
Yeah,
me.
I was gonna give me 1 second.
While you do that, I apologize. There was a miscommunication. And I should have shared updates for excellent schools prior to this month. However, I was under the assumption that K-12 would share it, but we really, excellent schools needs to come through our foundation, and we can't take that grant into our bank account, so we do have to report on it separately until we have the foundation up and running and all of that underway. So when we share this spreadsheet, it is all the way back from September. Can everyone see my spreadsheet? Okay. So on the left are the types of categories that the expenses were in, and then going towards the right are each month. So that's September, October, we had no expenses in November, and then it's December and then January. So overall, as you can see in column F, the largest buckets have been salary and benefits for our head of school. And then the second largest bucket was travel. This would be hotel, Ubers, various things associated with traveling to conferences. And then the next biggest item is conference fees that are associated, like the registration fees that are associated with that conference traveling. And then marketing speaks for itself, and food. So out of all that, we have $350,000 in this grant, and we've spent $20,000 with the remaining balance of $330,000. So something to note, now that we have CSP, we will no longer be paying Mercy salary and benefits out of this grant. This is our least restricted source of funding right now. So we will save this for a rainy day and for things that CSP can't cover. And as you know, if you went through the CSP grant interviews with us, certain things like food can't be covered by CSP, promotional giveaways like branded t-shirts and pins. So some of those may still come from here, but this process will follow a similar process in terms of reimbursement as we do with K-12 and how they manage their funding with us. In our next finance update, we will have to approve some or discuss some financial policies and procedures going forward. Any questions on excellent schools?
Can I add a couple things, Janet,
Yes.
to the finance planning updates? So the first one is some folks know, but I got paid, I think, for like October and November. It's happening. So that's good. And also I just kind of want to update everybody. We are finalists for the Charter School Growth Fund grant. And I just want to shout out all of you for just, you know, responding to those quick text messages that I was sending, so that way we could get all the information in. And also really appreciate Renee, Sarah, and Janet for being a part of the governance interview that's happening on Tuesday. So please send good vibes to them that day. I think based on the I just think we just have such like a rock star group, and we've already established so many great things that I think some of the low hanging fruit are things that we've like surpassed. And so we are at a more high level, a high level caliber when it comes to like the things that we're doing. So some folks are like, don't even have committees yet. Like some folks don't really have like a strong makeup like we have, and you know, have that passion and that commitment. So the team's going to go and share that, and then we'll have that interview, and then we'll have another financial planning and facilities interview, and that'll be myself, Janet, and K-12. And then hopefully we'll be able to hear some positive news there. So that was just the other update in terms of financial planning I had for you all.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you, K-12. Do we have any other, and thank you, Mercy, for that update. Do we have any other clarifications or questions?
Just a question on that grant. What's the size of that grant? And when would that be available? Would that be for the next couple of years, or when would that? How much and when?
It's up to $750,000.
Okay.
And that's a good question about across. I think it's across 2 years because it's what's called a seed grant. So it's they know that it's for startup purposes, but it would likely go to hiring personnel is what we'd like to do with that grant to make sure we have a full staff support for the students.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Janet, for sharing the updates. I appreciate your processes and your thoroughness with that. And I'm glad that Mercy's getting paid. I'm glad that's all working out and we're moving forward. Again, it's like a roller coaster.
Super excited. We had our first, finance committee today. It was awesome.
Awesome. Thank you all for that. Okay, moving on to the next part of our agenda, any academic or curricular updates? And Mercy, do you have anything to update on the academic and curricular side for us?
I did just put in the chat. It's not set in stone yet, but this is something that Abby highly recommends. It's called EL Education. It's super inquiry based informed. It's a free literacy program. So it's something that we're considering, and I just wanted to share that with you all in terms of academics and purchasing, planning curriculum. All of that is in the works until we get our facility so we can, submit and purchase. But we also, through the IY process, the implementation year process, it really supports and kind of narrowing in the nitty gritty of what that process is going to look like. So we have that scope and sequenced already and resubmitted it for the March deadline. But those are the only academic and curriculum updates I have.
Thank you. And I just realized looking at our agenda, the addition that I added to under governance, we skipped over. So I'd like us to move back a few steps. My apologies, as there's a snowstorm. I'm on my phone doing this. I'm on my laptop here to see all these things. So the piece that we asked to add to the agenda was to do nominations for a temporary appointment of a secretary, since Alejandra is getting ready to have two amazing twins here. She's going to be out for a couple months, and of course it's unpredictable. But we're looking at maybe having a temporary secretary start in April and go through June. And then, when Alejandra comes back on, but we may need to play it by ear. And if Alejandra has the babies before our March meeting, we might have that temporary secretary have to step in a little bit earlier. So I'll let you, Alejandra, give more information, and then I'll ask for nominations, and then we can do the appointment.
Yeah, I don't have any very much further information after that. I do expect to be able to be here for the March meeting if it is towards the beginning of the month, as this one is, since the babies aren't supposed to come till March 28th. I personally do not feel that I'm going to make it all the way to March 28th. But we never know. So that's just why we need to play it by ear a little bit. I might be here for March, I might not. Hopefully I will be. And I'm taking maternity leave from work until June, July, but I don't anticipate I'll need that much time. If it's just our one monthly board meeting, maybe I could be back for May and June, but play it by ear. So whoever wants to be nominated for temp secretary, I would just cautiously prepare for maybe March through June.
And we have templates. Alejandra has done a great job. We have meeting templates. So just to give you some more information on this role, this person would, help with the agenda as needed, take roll call, take notes, and all the things involved in that process, as well as get the meeting minutes within our respective timeline sent to me so I can post to the website, and also make sure that they're connected to our YouTube account. So any clarifications on what the secretary does? And in our board manual somewhere, there's a link to board roles if you want to go more in detail, but awesome. Okay, are there any nominations for a temporary secretary or self-nominations, nominations of others?
I'm also just texting James as well, just to let him know, let's see if he answers.
Okay.
And then also, I don't know, we probably actually need someone, right? But Abby has this wonderful note-taking AI thing that just kind of follows her everywhere. She was like, oh my gosh, you can kick it out if it's weird, but we can see how it creates notes. It's in like an alternate option to somebody if, you know, if they wanted like backup a note taker. Just wanted to raise that as well.
So since we are at a moment that is kind of the traditional Southwest Airlines thing where you don't want to make eye contact as people come on the plane, I think this is the time you look around and realize that James left the meeting early, and maybe the result of that is a nomination for temporary secretary.
He said he'll do whatever's needed for the team. So do we want to nominate him? I think he'd be great.
Sounds like we got a nomination. I'll nominate him. Is there a second?
Second that.
Any other nominations? Not like we're not looking at each other. Okay, well then I guess we'll move to as just a simple majority vote. So all in favor, let's go ahead and use our Zoom reactions. If we are in favor of appointing James to a temporary secretary from March to June of this year. I just want to make sure Alejandra can see all your reactions so she can take note of that.
And I've learned not to miss a meeting, so this is a good lesson.
Get voluntold to do things. Awesome. Okay, so James is our temporary secretary, and Alejandra, just keep us posted. Okay, moving back to our agenda. My apologies for that oversight. The next piece, we're going to get into some heavy stuff here, so bear with us. Facilities. I don't know. I'm going to let you, Mercy, give an update, and then I have some thoughts on this as well. But I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to you because you've kind of been in the trenches with this for a
Renee,
while.
so I just want to check. So you added 2 items. Is the other one we're going to do at the end, or the other one some update from something that's happened? That's at the end.
Yeah,
okay.
That's at the end.
All right.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
So Renee, if I may give a facility update real quick, and then Mercy can annotate afterwards if needed. We've been looking at a number of properties, right? So we were focused on the Summit building, which remains really the ideal in so many ways. However, that facility has the buyer that was going to buy, that was looking at entering into the lease agreement with us, has pulled out. They had another property that they were investing in, and so now the existing owners are looking to us to see if we want to outright purchase the building right now, become landlords to the existing tenants, and then do the phased in work of starting at the first floor and then going into the second floor and ultimately the third floor of the building for the school. The problem with that is that they're looking at selling the building right now for about $4.5 million, $4.6 million, and then the number of tenant improvements that would need to be done overall, we're really looking at about 6.5-ish, give or take $500,000 either way, to be able to acquire and make the Summit building useful. That's a little bit beyond the grants that we've received, and we've reached out to some investors. Candidly, one of the investors commented that during COVID, he could have bought that building for about $3 million, so it doesn't feel like spending 4.5 on it. Another investor let us know that he used to own that building and he's already sold it once. He doesn't want to buy it again. And so consequently, we have pivoted to looking at some other options. There is a church 2 properties away from the Summit building that is that is open to the idea of co-location. where they would continue to have their program, which is primarily a Sunday program once a month on a Wednesday, a few things during the week, but not much. And then we would basically then have most of the facility during the week. That would that has some real potential for 1 year, maybe 2. The space would not allow any more than that. It would also require candidly a certain amount of setup and tear down every single week, so that on the weekends it's restored back to the expectations that the church would have for their own use. There are a couple of other locations that we're looking at right now. There's an old Toys R Us that is basically would be kind of a tabula rasa, where we don't have to actually deal with any existing walls, and we could just simply build some walls and build out as we need over time. That actually would be a facility that over time we would be able to grow into. We haven't had a chance to take a good look at that. There's also an old private university that is not west of the river, but still west of the freeway, that we're taking a look at. That Connie's identified for us, that we'll be looking at to, and that is really, I think, the most move-in ready that we've seen of any properties. And so we've got several viewings set up. We are not at the moment yet of crisis, but we are at a point of some tension of making sure that we can actually secure a proper facility and make sure that it's ready to go for the first day of school. And to be perfectly candid, this is the norm for new charter schools. So we're still working through that process and whatnot, and trying to find the best facility possible for our school, and have a number of people who are collaborating on that issue right now. So the short answer is the Summit building that we thought we were all set with is looking more and more distant at the moment, not out of the question, but more and more distant at the moment. Some of these other options may come to bear. I will say that last one that I was commenting about, the old university, as long as we can get to it before somebody else, is actually going to be a better square footage deal than some of the other options that we're looking at, and is the most move-in ready. And so we're very much continuing actually actively looking at those and exploring all the options that are out there. So Mercy, did you want to add anything, or does that pretty much cover it?
Yeah, that pretty much covers it. And I think the other piece is that the Southwest location was leased. I know,
Yeah.
and so that's the other piece. That was essentially our backup plan.
Yeah, that's the facility. It's in a strip mall where Albuquerque Collegiate started, and it's been leased to another charter school.
Nonetheless, let's say if the Summit building, I think the other piece that I would have, if the Summit building, if we did find some generous soul to provide us funds, we would not be able to start there year one. So either way, we need to find another location. And so the broker's working diligently. I'm, during my off times, literally driving around and knocking on doors and asking people. That's how I found the church. I went on a Sunday morning, attended the church service, and talked to the pastor, and that's what got us that connection. So I am like also actively, working, continuing to reach out to all the connections, and we are gonna find a place. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, it's gonna happen. It's just a matter of where, and we're just getting a lot more creative now.
Does anybody have any questions?
I just want to add to, remind board members what our role is in this process, obviously to support, but just making sure that, whatever location is chosen, that it fits within our overall budget, we can afford it. and that we're following all that, but then also to leverage our networks, right? We're all connected in the community. So if we're aware of something or we know somebody who might know something, just really leaning into those networks, because I also feel like I went with Mercy one time to the Summit building, and it's a huge process. And I also don't want Mercy to feel like she's being left out without our support along the way, because this is I know we're not in crisis, but it's still a hard tension to be at, being that we need to open in August. So I appreciate, Mercy, your effort, work, and passion, because I know this is not easy. And thank you, Daniel, for supporting her along the process.
No, and this is the moment when somebody who is a lifelong educator and goes into this to educate children realizes that their primary responsibility at the moment in this phase is facility management, not education of children. And you know, it's a huge pivot, candidly. And you know, and Mercy's doing an amazing job. Part of the problem is the west side of Albuquerque, there's just no facilities, literally no facilities out there. We have talked to several real estate professionals, several different firms. Everybody's like, it just doesn't exist right now. And so if anybody has a line on something, thinks they know somebody, we're open to all options at this moment. But we're also actively pursuing the leads that we're getting.
Maybe, well, just you know, kind of second what Renee said, which is that, you know, I just appreciate the work and effort, and I understand how critical this is. You know, that's kind of the first question I get asked whenever I bring up the equip is, where is it? But I appreciate the work you guys are doing. You mentioned like west of the freeway, not west of the river. Do we have, I guess I don't understand that. Do we have a legal obligation to be in a certain, I mean, I know we said the west side, but so is that okay, you know, west of the freeway? Because that's a fairly big band of property that exists between the river and the freeway. So that's acceptable to our, you know, to those.
So my experience with the PEC is that when you say you are targeting a certain area, particularly greater Albuquerque metropolis, right? They expect you to focus on that area, but they recognize that you may or may not be able to find something in that area. And so let me give you a couple of examples. One is Health Leadership High School. When I was working with them, they were focused on getting to the South Valley. They weren't able to find a facility in the South Valley, but they were able to find a facility next to the airport on Randolph. And so the PEC recognized, after they heard the whole story, yes, you've done your due diligence, you've attempted to find a place. This is the closest thing that you've been able to find. And so that's fine. Ultimately, Health Leadership High School ended up with a permanent facility near the Journal Center, which is not at all where they were targeted to go. Right. Yeah. But that's where that simply ended up being for them. Altura Prep, which I did not work with, but Altura Prep started off near Wilson Middle School, and they're now in the far Northeast Heights. Relocated up there because they found a better facility for them up there, as opposed to where they were next to Wilson Middle School in a strip mall. And so there is there's an expectation that we do our best diligence to locate in the area that we've identified, but there's a recognition that sometimes we have to pivot on that.
Okay, thank you for that. And do you have a sense of, I mean, I know this would depend a lot on the state of the building that we actually would end up with as far as how much time we need, but do you have a sense of like what would be that, okay, now we are in crisis mode date? What would that be?
It all depends how turnkey ready we can find a place or not.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other
Mary, did you want to add anything?
questions?
I just want to make sure. Mary, did you want to add anything? Okay.
Okay. Well, keep us posted. Let us know how we can help you. We want to make sure you feel supported in this process. Okay, moving on to the next part of our agenda, policies. There are some IY checklist items due the end of this month that have some policy implications. And so I'm going to be working with Mercy to look at those to see, because we've already created a lot of things that came from like our handbook that were already kind of seen by the board. So I need to just verify that those fit in. Otherwise, we're going to have to bring these to the board next month to get your approval and support. But I'll let you know as soon as I have a final answer on if those are just coming right out of the staff handbook and some of the curricular stuff, or is it stuff that we actually need to co-create together and support and vote on next month. But just to let you know, there might be a little bit of policy work, but I'm not entirely sure just yet, but I'll keep you all posted. So moving on to enrollment updates, I just kind of want to give a very high level. So Mercy and I got to attend the Diverse Charter Schools Conference in Nashville, which was an amazing place to be in a room with other people who are just as passionate around public charters. And it was just an incredible energy, lots of great sessions. And I couldn't emphasize enough the thread that was like woven throughout the entire conference was the importance of community, the importance of connecting with those we're serving, the importance of not just educating children, but connecting with the parents, with the families, and making sure that we're meeting the best interests of those that we're intending to serve. And so I just thought that was a really nice piece that I think we all get that, we all know that as we talked about today, but I just think it was a really nice thing to see that in best practice and also to see how people do that. And there are tons of schools out there, like the whole idea of canvassing and door knocking, that is like a regular thing that people do in their communities. And so I just really appreciate you all kind of jumping, into the deep end in terms of this enrollment and outreach pieces. And so I'm going to pause there, hand it over to Mercy and Abby to give updates on that, but also then remind you all, Mercy created some subcommittees for us at our January meeting. And I just want to make sure you all know what you signed up for or what you were voluntold to do, and that you're making sure that you're connecting with either myself or Mercy to give us updates in those regards. So I'm going to pause talking. I'm going to let Mercy and Abby hear updates.
Great. Thank you for that, Renee. I think I'd love to hear other folks' voice. We've done a lot of things since I presented on our enrollment plan. Sarah and Alejandra sat at the school choice fair. I'm wondering if just one of you can give us a brief 30 to 1 minute highlight of what that was like. If you can take just a second to share out just to inform the team. Then I can follow up.
So it was at the Embassy Suites in one of those big ballrooms. It was put on by Public Charter Schools in New Mexico, I believe, and it was just all about school choice. So there was a huge, just a crush of all kinds of schools of all different, models. There were private schools, saw an etiquette school, so there were tons and tons of schools there and tons of families. It was really exciting. It was a great atmosphere. There was a DJ, they had food. So lots of people were really excited to be there. They were excited to talk to us. We saw a number of families who, it's a 180 out from some of the conversations we've had, just where they start with what is a charter school. People were coming to us saying, we need a charter school. They knew exactly what they were looking for. And they were really excited to hear what made us special. I will say we saw a lot of families that were looking for middle school and high school. So it does seem like I think people still equate charters with those grade levels. But we did find a number of families with really little ones. We signed up, I think maybe 15 people for more information, and they were really enthusiastic. So it was a great day, and I think we made some really nice connections.
That's awesome. And you guys did a great job. I was talking to Alejandra. She said that as soon as they sat down, it was like nonstop after nonstop after nonstop, like talking to families and folks. So I appreciate you all for doing that. The other piece that we did was canvassing, just outreach, and it has been extremely impactful. I'd love for either Mike or Janet to share about their experience, because they've been on they've been our partners on the last 2 Saturdays, along with the Community Impact Committee that we have. Does Janet or Mike, do you want to just quickly share 30 to 30 seconds to 1 minute share out?
Sure. So, well, I'll say to start, it's definitely outside my comfort zone. It was the first Saturday in particular was like, oh man, I was like looking at videos for, how to do door-to-door sales and such, but it was, I think we got off to a good start. I think the mall the mall was really fruitful, but unfortunately we got kicked out. I tried to do some door to door. I wanted to try that experience, so I spent about a half an hour going. I just picked the neighborhood at random and started going door to door. I think we do need the door hangers or something, because I just found that people coming to, well, half the people came to the door. The people that came to the door were didn't have kids in the age range, so it felt a little random. This last week, my focus was on businesses. So I went by Smith's and Trader Joe's and Walmart and a couple others. And so I tried to get contact, because most businesses of any public company, they do not want you to advertise on their property without some kind of approval, because then they're open the door. So I did get a couple of contacts for Smith's and Walmart. So Smith's I reached out to, put it, and I'm hoping that we'll get some kind of positive response, because I think that could be fruitful. Mercy, the Walmart one required us to get to sign up with that deed. We have to be registered, so I was hoping maybe you could do that part. But yeah, I mean, it was really interesting. It was challenging, but I will say the people that I talked to, they were at least positive with the idea, even if they didn't have kids, so it wasn't like, selling Amway or something. People were actually, pretty, positive about it, and, got some people that were excited and signed up. So yeah, it was a really interesting personal experience, and I think, we're on a good start.
Great, thank you. I thought it was extremely fruitful, and we made contacts collectively with the school choice fair tabling. Well, with all the tabling that we've done, plus the outreach, we've gotten 60 contacts for kindergarten and first grade families. That's like really good. So I think we should be very proud of ourselves for that. Mike, do you want to quickly share out how many folks came to the family info sessions?
Well, you said 5, right? 5 families. I guess I'd like to maybe get a little bit more context on that myself, but yeah, that was good to hear that we had 5 families showing up based upon the flyers and stuff we put out. So maybe the only thing I'd like to hear, what was it a good, fruitful conversation in that? But we did have 5 showing up.
It was great. Next week we'll be at Peter Piper Pizza. I know Alejandra was signed up for it. She can't make it. If somebody wants to go in her stead, please let me know. We're gonna table 12 to 3 at Peter Piper Pizza. And then we've been doing really well with the newsletter and social media marketing and advertising. And I will also add, with the commercials, we've had 760 hits across 3 news stations since we've started in January. So again, we're building awareness. We're sharing that out. I would like to switch it over to Abby, and I think you have a PowerPoint to share that she's gonna talk about analytics when it comes to the social media and the impact that it's making given the work that we're doing.
All right, thank you. So just wanted to, it's always hard to share some of the numbers. So I'm like, it's always easiest when there's like something you can see. So that's my goal with this, but just wanted to provide some of those updates. So first, we did actually run one ad and to kind of just try and see what that was going to be like and if it was going to be successful. So from that one ad that we ran, we were able to reach 1,600 different accounts. We had 7 different post interactions, like people responding, and we noticed that we had 240 profile activities, just like people from the ad that they were browsing on Instagram or Facebook, ending up to click and like actually go into the page and like look to see more about the school. So the big push for this one ad that we did run was to just really get the name out there and to get people to begin to see the name and understand that they can enroll, right? So it was more of a simple one and didn't necessarily have like open house on this day or information session, just because we want to build some of that brand awareness. We had 265 visits to the website. So Mercy and I have been working on the website and made a couple edits on there. So feel free to check it out and give us your feedback if there's something you think we can improve on the website. And then overall, we ended up with 5 leads from the Facebook ads in general. So this is actually pretty good for one ad. And I think as we continue to do these, people will recognize it. And then as soon as they see it, the big thing with this is like, you know, they see it on Instagram one time, they're driving down the street and they see a yard sign, and then they go to Safeway or whatever grocery stores you have, and they're like, oh, they're tabling here. Let me talk to them, right? Because now they've seen the branding a couple times. So then in terms of applications at this point, you know, all of your work is very clear and it's been hard work, but you all have 78 leads, which is basically every person that has signed up on those like sign up form to learn more. We are going to call them leads. So we have 78 leads that have not been converted to applications yet, but we have their name, we have the parent name, we have phone numbers, we have emails. So that really gives us an entry point to actually get them enrolled, right? Because they share that information with us. So we have 10 formal applications, 7 for kindergarten and 3 for first grade. At the first session, like Mercy said, we had 5. And as of today, we have 2 families confirmed for the next information session coming up. So our next steps obviously is to continue to increase the follow-ups on the leads, because we have so many there that we need to get them through the pipeline of attending the information session and having one-on-ones with Mercy and just really enrolling with the school. And then of course continuing to do the outreach like you all are, and then continuing the digital marketing efforts. So in terms of hiring, we also have a hiring portion on the website that just asks people to submit their resume and cover letter if they're interested. So as of right now, we have 3 office assistant applicants, 2 applicants for an operations manager, 2 for K-1 teachers that are certified, and 2 instructional assistants. So we have not interviewed anyone yet. So we're finalizing that hiring plan and making sure we have a clear process so that we can review resumes, select people for the first few rounds of interviews. And so our next steps is to finalize that and then continue the outreach for specific roles that are not posted yet, like special education and things like that. And moving forward, so what's next? We did place an order for some yard signs that look like the image on the left. So obviously this, we will need to ask for permission to post these, but these are also some that like you all can post outside of your homes, or if there's anyone that is interested, sometimes in public spaces you can, and there's a letter we can write to ask people for permission to post these. We also got these door hangers ordered. So when we're doing door-to-door knocking, if they're not there, we leave the hanger there. Now they've seen an ad on Instagram, they saw a yard sign driving down the street, and they saw this, you know, information on their door. So we want to continue, we're going to be doing these and hopefully they arrive in the next few weeks. So after that, like I said earlier, right, converting those leads into enrolled students and making sure that we're engaging with them because we got their phone number, we have their emails, we need them to enroll. Finalizing the hiring and onboarding plan once we get ready to hire staff, and then continuing to strengthen engagement with families. So on the right, you'll also see the flyer that you probably all have seen already, but this is the flyer we use to share information sessions when you are out in the community. And that is my daughter. Her name is Maya O'Neill. And you know, I forced her to take a picture at the library, and I was like, okay, it looks like a school. We're gonna use this future kindergartner because she's 5 and just turned 5 on Christmas to, you know, show a real face of a real child that will be enrolled soon. So last slide is what can you all do to help us, right, with enrollment and recruitment? Obviously, personally invite families to the info sessions, share school information, connect with leaders and people that you know to continue to share who we are as a school. And then use your professional and personal networks to then also recruit teachers and staff that will eventually be needing to hire. And then last but not least, attend our info session. Feel free to come in and introduce yourself to parents and share our social media posts and updates to make sure that people are seeing it. Any questions?
Great update
This is
and nice work.
Yeah, I think this is amazing. And I just wanted to let you know that your social media targeting really, really works because I fall within the exact demographic, I think, of who we're targeting. I live on the west side, I have small kids. And I see an equip ad on Instagram at least 2 times like every single day, if not more. So the targeted ads are really working. And I can't make it this weekend because we decided to celebrate my son's birthday early, just in case his siblings decide to ruin his actual birthday. I won't be at Peter Piper Pizza, but I will be at Main Event, and I will have a bunch of little kids at his birthday party, so I'll make sure to hand out flyers, and I can also leave some at Main Event, maybe possibly if they let me do that. So I can do that. And also Mateo School is building like a they have like a school choice wall thing that they present to the parents of their 4-year-olds who are graduating from the preschool. And they've already got all the info on there about Equip Academy. So just a little update on that.
Thank you.
I was wondering, with the info sessions, I'm a data person. Is there any way that we can get from them how they heard about us so we do know what is really working to get them through the door for the sessions?
Yes, it's actually on the form that they like fill out to RSVP. So we kind of put it could be seen as a barrier because we didn't give them the exact Zoom link, but it's actually a way to get that data, right? Like, did you get it on social media? Did you meet someone in person? Did you hear from another parent? So it asks on the Google form where they RSVP. And
We
then
also have a welcome question. Maybe we could do 2 welcome questions. I don't know, Abby.
oh yeah, when we did the
Yeah.
Zoom.
Mhm.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that's encouraging.
I feel like we have a school.
I know,
All the
and we
place,
have
it's
like
coming into place.
I didn't realize we had that many applicants, and we haven't even really started like hardcore recruiting yet for staff. So that was exciting to see. Thank you, Abby. That's it
Awesome.
for me with that, Renee.
Thank you. Any other questions, clarifications around enrollment, outreach, staffing?
I just put again in
Okay,
the
can move on to
chat. Oh, I just put again in the chat the what we signed up for. I know Mary, you weren't here. So if you want to just go through those tabs and then reach out with any questions, and if you can just sign up for some Saturdays that you're available. And then also to everyone, again, I just want to reiterate Abby's point of like reaching out to our networks, right? We each selected 5 ambassadors, and I will say I have yet to reach out to my ambassadors. So if you also have yet to, we can all collectively do that this week to really try to increase the 2 students. My goal was 4 families. We had 5, so we surpassed my goal. I would love to have 5 families again for the family info session on the 20th, and we have 2 options, either at noon or 6.
awesome, thank you. So I want to be mindful of time here, and I think this is maybe something we can send on email. So I know we added, there's a bill being introduced right now about shifting some of the structure of the PEC and charter school division. So I don't know, Sarah, if you want to give just a high level update, and then maybe we can send that link to folks, and then maybe we can have a further discussion at another time.
Sure. I dropped a link in the chat just in case anybody feels like reading some legislation, but there was a bill introduced earlier this week happens to be by Joy Garrett, who happens to be on the west side. She's a representative in that area, so she's kind of in our neighborhood, which is cool. But more importantly, the bill eliminates the charter schools division over at the PED and instead stands up a Office of State Charter Schools or State Charter Schools Office under the PEC. And that's important because that gives the PEC its own dedicated staff. They can choose those people, build their own teams that align with, you know, their ethos on charter schools, what makes a strong charter. Should charter schools in New Mexico continue to grow? And you know, it directs their work in that way. So I feel like just with our experience through the application process and some of the kind of really discouraging feedback that we got that wasn't always particularly actionable, I feel like this bill is a really important step forward to making sure that that entire structure is really there to support charter schools, support charter excellence, and just make sure that that elected body has all the resources they need to make sure that we as charters are able to be successful. So wanted to raise that. I know we can't take any action on it or anything tonight because we haven't noticed it. But if anyone, you know, wants to talk about in the future, maybe writing a letter or doing some kind of testimony just to kind of share our story with the legislature, because I feel like what we experienced is so relevant to this. I'd be happy to talk about that.
I would definitely second that, Sarah. Anything that I can do, you let me know.
Yeah, and I know that we gave some feedback to PCSNM, and then I might be saying the acronym, but the Public Charter Schools of New Mexico. We gave them some feedback generally about like how arduous and ridiculous the process was. And then I know Daniel at our final hearing had mentioned some inconsistencies and some feedback. So maybe we could all work together to draft something. And I don't know what the protocol is with that, so I'm going to lean on Daniel as our official lawyer to tell us what we can and cannot do.
Certainly, there's no prohibition for the board, either members individually or the board as a whole, to take a position on legislation. A lot of times there are, in different contexts, you know, I used to serve on a federal board, advisory board. The federal advisory board was prohibited from lobbying under federal law. That's not the case in terms of New Mexico law and in terms of the charter school board. The idiosyncrasy that happens right now is that we have a public education commission made up of elected officials. Right now, if you're dissatisfied with what they've done, you could appeal it to the Secretary of Education, who's an appointed official. Usually you appeal the decision of an appointed official to an elected official, not an elected official to an appointed official. In addition to that, there's a charter schools division within the PED that resources the PEC, but the PEC has nothing to say about who that staff is going to be. So they are so the PED decides who the director of the charter school division is, and the PEC has to simply work with whoever's selected by somebody else. And then even in terms of their attorney that they have at the PEC, their contract has to be approved by the PED. And one of the things the PED has consistently done, which I think is unethical, is they have required that as part of the terms of the contract for being the lawyer for the PEC, you're not allowed to take an adverse position against the PED. And so that's a real problem. That's a real problem in terms of having an attorney and then binding that attorney from being able to actually represent that client. And so this is frankly something that should have been done a long time ago. It's a logical outgrowth of the growth of the PEC, but it also fixes a number of structural issues and structural problems. The other thing that happens is Under state law, 2% of the state equalization guarantee is stolen from us and used to support what the administrative work. However, if you add up the 2% of all the state charter schools, the PED has never been able to justify how they use that money. And so consequently, I mean, like when they've been asked to justify how they use that money, they go into all these fantastical theories of how that money is utilized in ways to support charter schools that districts don't have to support, but they get the exact same services from the PED. And so this would also, frankly, open the door to either getting rebates back from that 2% or that 2% being reduced over time to the actual cost of funding the PEC. And then ultimately, hopefully, the PEC being simply funded through normal tax dollars and that we would actually get the full 100% that districts get to be able to educate their own children. So that in a nutshell is my thoughts on the bill.
No, thank you so much, Daniel. I appreciate that extra context. And thank you, Sarah, for bringing it to our attention. So maybe it sounds like we have full autonomy to work through things. So Sarah, I'm happy to help. Sounds like Mercy. Sounds like a couple of us are happy to write a letter or whatever we can do. So thank you for that. So be
I guess
mindful
just
of
a real
time. We've
quick
done a lot
question.
tonight.
Can I just ask a really quick follow-up question to Daniel? Just procedurally, Daniel, do we have to take any kind of action to endorse before we, take any steps to submit a letter or do anything like that? Oh, you're muted.
Oh, you're still muted, Daniel.
A lot of people say that's when I'm most effective. If the board is going to officially endorse, it has to be noticed because it's an action by the board. So it would be under the 72-hour rule.
But do we have to do that just in order to send a letter, or can we just, is that like an official action?
If the board is sending a letter, that would be an official action. If Mercy does it as the head administrator, that would not be an official action of the board, would not be subject to the Open Meetings Act.
Okay. If I send something as the governing board chair personally, would that fall under that?
If you send it personally, it does not fall under the Open Meetings Act. If you do it on behalf of the board corporately, it does.
We can discuss offline, Sarah, if what we feel is beneficial, because we can always do something. We can set something up, another meeting or etc. between now and the session ending. Okay, we did a lot. Thank you for bearing with us. Thank you for your patience. 2 action items, next steps. Look at that board manual between now and the next March meeting. If it resonates with you, if anything's missing, please continue to support the outreach enrollment efforts and the ask that we just got from Abby about leading into our professional networks, sharing more information as we go forward. So I want to be mindful, we're a little bit over time. So in the chat, Sarah posted the board feedback survey, which is part of our process to make sure that we're holding ourselves accountable. But it also helps us in adjusting our agendas for next month. And as a data and assessment person, I'm always looking at this data. So if you can please take a moment to take that, but please commit to doing it in the next 5 minutes, so that way we can have that data. But I want to be mindful of time that we're over. And so I'd like to put out a motion to adjourn our February Equip Academy board meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, meeting's adjourned. I appreciate all your hard work, passion, and effort as we build a wonderful school together. And please continue to reach out and support one another, and more to come.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening.